You know that drawing of a horse that kind of became a meme where a third of it really sucks and then another third of it is pretty good and then the last third is amazing? That describes so many bands in this scene. Blink 182 or Neck Deep. They completed that drawing. But today I want to talk about bands who never were able to complete the drawings. These guys never even released a full length album. That really makes me sad. But I want to highlight some of these bands and express how grateful I am for the music that we did get from them. Fame and fortune don't even come to the most successful pop punk bands these days, so is it really a surprise that this scene is littered with defunct pop punk bands? They only drew the first leg of the horse, and we never got to see what these bands were capable of. And please remember that I like pop punk. I've got a pretty dubious taste in music, so these bands might not be for you. This first band is called Coast to Coast. I don't really know who they're for. I'll just say if you like this genre of music and have a particular interest in vocalists with pretty unique deliveries, this band might be for you. They're a band from Europe who have toured with the likes of Can't Swim, Waster, Catch Fire, and Light Years, and all they would get to do is release a couple of EPs on the label called Fox Records. I love when a vocalist has a unique voice, and I think maybe that's what held this band back. He kind of switches between sounding like he's got a wet towel in his mouth and sounding like a bloodhound. For some people, that's going to be like nails on a chalkboard, and they'll go running from this band the second this guy starts wailing. They never got to release a full length album, and that really makes me sad because I think with a couple years of growing, maybe signing on to a little bigger label, going on some more worldwide tours, this band could have released something special. But Coast to Coast would only get to release 2 short EPs and 1 EP with some reimagined songs. And aside from some cool tours in Europe, this band would just never pick up steam. They would release their final songs in December 2020, 3 years after their first EP, with the statement, "The last 5 years have been incredible. Through the ups and downs, the long drives, the empty shows, the sold out shows, we are always grateful for the opportunities that this band has given us. This isn't the end of our musical endeavors, but it is the end of Coast to Coast. Thanks for everything. We leave you with 3 final tracks, releasing 1 a week for the next 3 weeks." The next band I want to talk about is another UK-based band called Homebound. They've toured with the likes of 4 Year Strong, Waster, Neck Deep, Trash Boat, and Broadside. They never got the traction they needed, but all of their EPs have so much pop-punk energy, I think a lot of people would really gravitate towards Homebound if they gave them a listen. Their first EP, Permanence, would release in 2015, their second EP would release in 2017, and their third EP and their final EP would release in 2018. They would announce their breakup on November 21st, 2018. No farewell tour, no final shows, no new music, no nothing. They would say, a group of friends writing music for fun, soon outgrown by something bigger than the idea itself. I don't think they would ever have been as big as Neck Deep or even Trash Boat, but I think that maybe they could have been like Waster. They've got a vocalist with a voice that I think sounds pretty unique, and whatever post-processing is going on with the vocalist, I really like it. If you love fast-paced and emotional pop-punk, make sure to check out their latest EP, More to Me Than Misery. It's 15 minutes long, and I think it's a great listen front to back. The next band is called Best Years. They're not the most mature band in the world, be forewarned. They're probably for fans of super whiny vocals, wishful thinking era Knucklepuck, Narwolves, maybe Young Culture. Look, I'll be completely honest. A lot of people would listen to this and probably think that this band is terrible, but I think they just crush it when it comes to writing hooks. And if people can get over the vocalist who is like as whiny as it gets, I'll be honest, I think they really dig some of the EPs that Best Years put out. They've released a grand total of 12 songs across 3 EPs, the last one being Ride the Wave in 2016. It was an EP that showed signs of the band's maturing, but we never got to hear what they were truly capable of because they would break up shortly after that. I include them in here because I feel the same way about them as I did after Neck Deep released Wishful Thinking. I was like, some of the songs here are really good, some of it wasn't so good, and I was a little embarrassed that I liked it at all. And then Neck Deep went on and released Life's Not Out to Get You. And I think Best Years had it in them, to some degree. Some of their songs are just as catchy, their music video is creative as hell, and I think that their last EP was a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, we never got to see where they would go after that. Oh well. This last band is buried deep in the trenches of Spotify. I think it's one of those situations where two bands have the same name. So you got to go way back in this other band's discography to find this EP released by a band called Mariner. Mariner is for fans of the early days of The Story So Far and Knuckle Puck. All they have is a single EP called In Ways I Can't Explain with some terrible album art, but please don't let that stop you from giving it a chance. This band has toured with Misser, Set Your Goals, and even In Her Own Words. And judging from their Facebook, they've also gone in a nationwide headliner, which blows my mind since they only have a couple of songs. If you went to that tour, please comment what the experience was. I have to know how many people were at those venues. Their lone EP, In Ways I Can't Explain, is as finger pointy as it gets. And if you love that about pop punk, I think you're going to dig this out. You can tell that the vocalist and probably the band are terrible live, and I guarantee that if any of these band members have done any maturing in their lives since the release of this album, they probably look back at these lyrics and cringe a bit. I know I do. I like to pretend that the song So You Know on this EP doesn't exist. And sometimes you need a band like this, with a lyricist and vocalist who's equal parts finger pointing and self-loathing, who sounds like he's not as much shouting at the world as he is screaming into a pillow. Pretty much every band ends up maturing, and I would have loved to see what Mariner could do with a little maturing in their sound. Maybe they could have been like Knuckle Puck after a few releases, or maybe they didn't want to spend the next 5 years dirt broke. Those are 4 defunct pop punk bands that I wish we could have gotten more of. Please let me know in the comments some bands that had a failure to launch and never got to release anything beyond some EPs. And let me know your favorite song on those albums, and I will be sure to add it to the Spotify playlist in the description. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next video right here.